It now gives me huge pleasure to call our resident metrology expert, Adam Thompson.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is once again a great honour for me to speak in debate about this bill, the Product Regulation and Metrology Bill. Today, of course, we focus on amendments put forward following the report back from the Public Bill Committee, on which I was similarly honoured to serve as the resident metrologist. In the Bill Committee, we heard extensively from members of the opposition in particular, who described their concerns in great depth, as we've just heard from across the way. Concerns about the bill's implications regarding potential international alignment of regulations. Today, these concerns have once again been presented to the House in various opposition amendments to the bill. I would like to explain through this speech, with reference to the state of the art in metrology, why these issues shouldn't be a significant cause for concern for honourable and right honourable members. Yes, I will gladly.
Thank the honourable member for giving way, and he and I served on that Public Bill Committee together. But it hasn't he missed a slightly important point on this. This isn't about foreign alignment, as is put forward by the amendments that have been tabled by the opposition. This is not about international alignment, it's about alignment with the EU, which is why there's such concern from this side of the House.
Thank the honourable member, right honourable member, my apologies, for his intervention there. And I think I'll go on to talk about some of these points throughout my speech. But as I discussed extensively through the Bill Committee, I think there is just a misunderstanding here of quite exactly what this bill is doing. And I sort of fundamentally disagree with the point he's making. But I'll go into more detail throughout the speech. Madam Deputy Speaker, one of the first things that one learns as a budding metrologist is about the concept of perfection. In his book, Exactly, Simon Winchester writes of what he refers to as the perfectionists, detailing the evolution of the science of metrology through time and how precision engineering has been used to create the modern world in which we inhabit. It's a great read. It covers the history of my science in the popular mindset. However, I don't necessarily agree with Winchester in his core thesis. He talks about metrology as the science of perfection, whereas I think it's more accurate to consider it not as the science of the perfect, but of the science of the good enough. And I'd like to elaborate on some of that shortly. In the early days of a metrologist training, we learn that with more money and more time, a precision engineer can almost always achieve a more precise and accurate result, be that a straighter line, a smoother surface, or indeed a better piece of legislation. However, the strive for true perfection, and by that I mean the absence of literally any fault, is always folly. Our resources are never infinite, and in the real world it is always more appropriate to strive for the good enough as opposed to the perfect. Good enough is the core of modern engineering and the fulcrum on which our world balances. Many colleagues will know, as we've already stated, that I am by trade a metrologist. But within the broader field of metrology, I am particularly a surface metrologist. Surface metrology revolves around the measurement and the characterization of surfaces, surface texture and surface topography. I am the one who decides if your leather steering wheel feels right. I am the one who ensures that your car's engine will distribute and hold oil in all the right places to keep it running smoothly. And I am the one who ensures that your tyres keep you firmly planted on the road as you round the corner. Becoming a surface metrologist involves gaining an intimate acquaintance with the very concept of perfection. Always, in engineering, I hear people asking for a product to be made perfectly, for the angle of the corner of the table to be exactly 90 degrees, for the surface of the microscope lens to be infinitely smooth. Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, may I put on record that there is no such thing as perfection in reality. To study... I will give up.
Now, I know what you're all thinking. I wasn't going to suggest I'm perfection. However, as a mathematician, would you accept that the reason that perfection is not achievable in that instance is actually to do with the infinite, and actually the infinite amount of numbers between 1 and 1.1, for example, or the infinite amount of numbers between 1.1 and 1.11 are the reason that is impossible to get to perfection?
Before Mr Thompson resumes his position, I have to remind the House, I accept that we have some experts in the chamber today, but the speeches and the interventions must relate to the business in hand and the amendments too. Adam Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. It was perfect.
Don't encourage
yes, he's absolutely right. But I leave the perfection to the mathematicians. But also, and I will use this to illustrate my point, Madam Deputy Speaker, I hear people in engineering asking for products to be made perfectly, for angles to be, the angle of the corner of the table to be exactly 90 degrees or the surface of the microscope to be infinitely smooth. To study metrology, though, is to understand the concept of imperfection, the concepts of uncertainty, and apply those to everything. If you zoom in close enough, the angle is never exactly right and the surface is never perfectly smooth. In the second reading of this of this bill, I made reference to the optical mirrors used in the James Webb Space Telescope. Incredibly smooth, yes, but to examine them at the atomic scale, one would find deviations from the nominal plane that mirror those in the Grand Canyon. Being an engineer involves accepting these deviations within the context of the work we undertake towards our goal of constant improvement, be that in the creation of, say, aerospace engines or indeed national legislation. My expertise within surface metrology was in the development of X-ray computed tomography for measuring surfaces. Alongside my good friend Dr. Andy Townsend at the University of Huddersfield, he made similar discoveries to me at the same point in history, a phenomenon common actually across science. I was amongst the first to be able to use X-rays to measure the interior surfaces of parts, which were otherwise hidden to both the eye and to the machine. X-ray computed tomography has never previously been good enough to measure surfaces, with the required imaging resolutions achievable lagging significantly behind those required to separate measurements from noise. Previously, such measurements weren't really needed, as to manufacture a surface, one generally had to access that surface with a machine tool and could similarly access it with a measurement tool. But with the birth of industrial additive manufacturing, often called 3D printing, we could suddenly make things with hidden internal geometries that didn't need tool access and couldn't be measured. Without measurement, though, we cannot verify that the parts that we make will function as we require them to. And so new technology was required to allow us to create additively manufactured parts, be they novel, much lighter aeroplane parts, or new joint replacements, customised to finally suit the individual. Andy and I, alongside our colleagues, solved this problem by demonstrating that X-ray computed tomography had become good enough to measure these surfaces. This bill, Madam Deputy Speaker, mirrors that good enough paradigm. Current legislation sees us placed at risk of falling out of alignment with the rest of the world, which in turn risks our ability as the British to maintain our position at the forefront of international science. This bill, in its current unamended form, grants the Secretary of State the necessary authority to keep pace with the guidance of relevant experts. The amendments proposed by the opposition would only hinder our ability to stay aligned with the continuous advancement of progress. Honourable members opposite have quite... I will give way.
In lauding the Henry VIII powers of this bill, is he at ease as an elected member of this House with the fact that this bill can see criminal offences created without any scrutiny or input from this House, that the liberty of our constituents, who they might think we would be interested in protecting, can be jeopardised by criminal offences that only the executive makes? Is he at ease with that?
I thank the honourable member for his intervention, but I disagree with his assessment of what he's meaning there. This is about providing the Secretary of State with the necessary powers that he needs to ensure that we remain at the forefront of science. Honourable members have, opposite, quite incorrectly claimed that the bill hands over authority to foreign powers or overly centralises it in the hands of the Secretary of State. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not a matter of ceding control to external entities. Rather, it's about maintaining the United Kingdom's positioning at the forefront of scientific and regulatory innovation. It's about ensuring that the British scientists that follow in the footsteps of Newton, of Franklin, of Hawking, are able to continue to lead the world in their fields. Madam Deputy Speaker, these opposition amendments appear to stem from a fundamental misunderstanding, or perhaps a complete lack of an understanding of what metrology, of what standards frameworks entail, and why they are vital. I urge all members to vote against them and support this bill through its third reading.